Films opening at BAM this weekend, November 16th, Brooklyn Academy of Music there in Brooklyn. So I'm joined by the star, Tim Heidecker, as well as the director, Rick Alverson. So thanks both for coming. Alverson. Apologies. It sounds more like a planet. But Alverson, Rick Alverson.
Yes.
Thanks both for coming.
Sure.
So just to begin, for those who might not be familiar with the film, who would like to give just a brief synopsis of what the film's about?
You can go ahead.
Well, it's about a bunch of basketball players who get trapped on a plane that crashed in the Andes. It's a little bit like that movie Saved, about the basketball players who got trapped in the Andes.
Well, the film I saw last night was a little different. Starred you mostly.
Right.
You're kind of floating throughout this kind of quasi
hipster, yes, now I
rich
remember.
person experience.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Because in the movie, the character Swanson that I play is having a dream about basketball players who die in a plane crash.
I mean, it could be that he's going throughout the film in a dream state. I believe
Right.
that.
So I was thinking about because since I played the character, I was like, oh, he was dreaming about basketball players, and then he wakes up at the end. But you're right. The movie is about the character, not his dream.
That's fair to say.
I bungled it.
That's fair. I mean, the Wikipedia entry didn't mention.
No,
any
I'm not
sort of dream.
responsible for that Wikipedia.
You didn't write that?
No.
Uh-huh. You didn't write that either? Tell me about, Rick's question is really, I guess, to you, how this movie came about. Was there a script? What was the concept? How did it go from an idea to a film?
As with my other two movies, The Builder and New Jerusalem, it came from like a 20-page script with no scripted dialogue, and then when Tim and Eric Wareheim and Greg Turkington and Jeff Jensen and these folks came on, it further, became deeper about communication and sort of when we shot it and edited it, shit.
Fair enough. Some people have compared this character in terms of that he is kind of going through life in this kind of dream state, although a little sharper, but to Zach's Braff character in Garden State. How would you respond to a comparison like that?
I hadn't heard
I
that.
didn't really like that movie.
Uh-huh.
I don't really recall. Rick Moody wrote it, right?
I don't know.
I don't really remember the movie that much. I think I liked it that much, but it's like I like New Jersey now more than I used to. So
It's like a romantic comedy.
well, I think it was, yeah. So yeah, it's hard to say. What do you think?
I think the beginning. I think the beginning has parallels, but not so much the end. I think it goes to a very different thing. Whereas your film, one thing that I will say about it is that it has a certain distinct rhythm. You want to speak to that, maybe?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I have a growing disinterest in like traditional narrative, and particularly like
I noticed.
Particularly like narrative that's developed through dialogue, and I think that, well, my opinion is that we should be smarter as a nation of people watching movies than to have certain tropes dictated to us. And I think there's an increasing kind of like sad, well, not increasing, but just a sad sort of interest in having ideas and moral and ethical and informational things provided for us, and we get potentially upset when they're not.
So how is this film a response to that, your previous statement?
Well, I think formally it's a response because it doesn't really engage in that kind of, this sort of
tropes.
Yeah. Insofar as that it would require a viewer to bring some of themselves to the things, just essentially a kind of.
Tim, I'll ask you. I'm very familiar with Tim and Eric Awesome Show. I've seen a lot of the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed, especially some of the earlier ones.
Oh, thanks.
And
what happened? You didn't care? We got worse.
I feel that a lot of the people who were fans of the show,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe they got older. Maybe there was a certain kind of repetition in the comedy after a point. But I want to speak about those fans because I know a lot of those fans, and I think that a lot of them are kind of this type of character where they're kind of hipster, white,
Mm-hmm.
privileged, maybe not always privileged, but in their outlook and in their view, there is a lot of irony and cynicism,
Mm-hmm.
and this film is just all about irony and cynicism.
Mm-hmm.
So, was this? What's your take on how your fans might see this movie? Do you think that they're going to really love it, or they're going to kind of be like, "Is he making fun of us?"
The reaction I've gotten from my fans has been extremely positive. A lot of people that I consider Tim and Eric fans are creative, artistic, smart people, and probably shop at American Apparel or thrift stores, so they might look a little hipstery in the encyclopedia, their encyclopedia definition of that. But I just think people understand that we can live outside the constraints of the work we do in the Tim and Eric world, and we have broad interests, and we love film, and we love Rick's films. So everyone's been very supportive, encouraging, and positive. I don't think anybody sees it as an insult or anything. I think we all can look ourselves in the mirrors and see things that we don't that might be wrong with us. So it hasn't been negative at all.
Mm. And how would you respond, either, both of you rather, to people walking out of screenings?
No response.
No response.
There's it's a free country. The movies, anything I've ever done, and I'm sure with Rick, is not intended for everybody. We're not trying to please everybody, so it's no surprise that some people aren't going to like the work. But we don't focus on that. We focus on negative energy, focus on positive energy.
Would you say that there's more negative energy or positive energy in the film?
No idea.
No,
In the world?
No, in the film. In the film.
There's positive energy in the film because it's a creative, it's a piece of art, it's an artwork. So it's intended to inspire, to create discussion, to create debate.
Yeah, actually, it is intended to inspire. It is, yeah.
Yeah, so it's ultimately it should be considered a positive thing. It's a new thing that didn't exist before the movie was made. So I consider it a positive thing.
I've always gone to movies to be sort of shaken and to be, sometimes disturbed or destabilized or, changed in some way. And I think if a person doesn't approach it doesn't have an interest in utilizing movies that way, it's probably of little use to them. If they're interested in something that, that's what I'd say.
The character of Swanson, you see him throughout all these different scenes, and most anti-heroes, they do a lot of things you don't like, and they do some things that you like, and that is their redemption. Can you speak to some of the more positive things that this character does, which allows the audience to relate to them and to root for them?
Yeah, I'm not really. I'm sort of not really into that the idea of the necessity of him being a sympathetic character. I think that that's sort of like this. We go to movies and we expect movies to be so different than our experience in daily life. You know, for us to be able to, you know, be validated by the thing, and I mean, there are ways in to the character. The humor is one of them, and but there's no redemption for the character, and that's an emphatic thing in the movie. And I think that, you know, that we shouldn't expect redemption in movies, even though it's traditionally what we're conditioned to do. So.
And do you think that lack of formula, lack of traditional formula, what we're used to seeing, that may have been one of the reasons why people did not get the film?
Sure. Yeah. Those people, they want, you know, their entertainment, and we're not going to give it to them.
Okay. Film is a comedy. It's out on VOC. You can check it out this weekend at BAM in Brooklyn.
It's on iTunes as well.
It's on iTunes as well. But just everyone out there should definitely watch the movie, because you may like it, you may not like it, but it's definitely going to stir up some emotions inside of you. It's definitely going to get you thinking about things in a very different way. And I believe that was the intent of the filmmakers. Sure.
Thank you very much.
Tim Heidecker, thank you very much. Rick Alverson.
Alderon.
Alderon.
Alverson.
Rick, thank you.
Cheers.
All right.